Dear students, welcome again. We talked in this course about information, about data treatment. We talked about systems, and we were talking in the previous parts about system analysis. And we used two families of diagrams, DFD, data flow diagrams, and UML, Unified Modeling Language diagrams. We talked about class diagram, about use case diagram, and today we will shortly talk about activity diagram. Activity diagram is very important, and it is used in urban organizations, in enterprises, in administration, in informatics, etc. It is very easy to use and very easy to understand. There is some symbols in this diagram, but the most used symbols are the first 8 symbols. We have the beginning, it is a filled circle. We have the end, we have a decision. The diamond is a decision, but always when we have a decision, we have two paths. One with yes, another with no. The two paths should be joined somewhere at the end. So when we merge the two paths, we use also a diamond. For the merge diamond, there is two inputs and one output. Similar representation is for fork and join. For fork, we have, it is a bar, and we have one input with two output. That means the path will be separated in two paths, and somewhere they should be rejoined again in using the same symbol but with two inputs and with one output. The difference between the fork and decision, with decision usually we'll use one path only, but with fork we should execute the two paths in parallel. It is not necessary exactly in the same time, but to continue our execution, both of these paths should be executed. After that, we will continue the execution of all the activity. The activity is a sequence of actions. Each action, we can represent it in the symbol of actions. And also we use arrow to indicate the sequence of actions. We can add some notes, and we can represent the time. For example, if we know that a sensor needs some time to send the data, we can add this symbol to indicate that we need some time, 1 millisecond, 10 milliseconds, 1 hour, 2 hours, etc. Also, activity diagrams can communicate. If we have one activity diagram to realize a task, perhaps he should ask another activity diagram something, and he will get it to continue the execution. Perhaps we want to evaluate one student, so we send to the server during the evaluation of the student. We can send a message to a server in which we ask that server of the university some information about the student, and we can get back this information to verify that he is registered in the course. Also, we will use our example about connected home. In this example, if you remember, we have a Raspberry Pi in the home, a small computer, and this computer receives data from different families of sensors. The data is received by some applications in Python or Java or other languages. These data are treated, then it is registered in a database. We should pay attention because database here, it is database management system, so it is a complete system. After that, the resident or a researcher or another user may connect to get this data, to get. Also, we have a GUI, graphical user interface, in order to improve the representation of the data, to give a suitable views to the client. We can also, in the other way, we can control some parameters of the house. For example, we can control the heating, we can control some electrical devices, but we don't pay a lot of attention in our course to this way, because our goal is not really the smart home as we said before. Our goal is to have different analysis at the level of the home, at the level of the neighborhood, at the level of the city. For this reason also, we have another programs and application that may enable us to communicate the data to the city, the database of the city. This is an example about activity diagram using these symbols. Compare between the means of two parameters. So a client can enter to the application of the Raspberry Pi and he can compare between two parameters. For example, he can compare between the temperature in one room with another room, or with one room with the external temperature. He can compare between the temperature in two periods in the same room. For example, between the temperature in January and the temperature in September. As I mentioned before, database here means database management system. From this diagram we can know that it is the resident who start the activity. So he take the tablet and he search some information. When he open the application, he will show, the GUI will show him the interface, the suitable interface of the apartment in order to let him ask what he wants. After that, it is the resident who will choose the two parameters. So he will say, for example, he wants the temperature of the room with the temperature of the bathroom in order to compare the two temperatures. After that, there will be the GUI will test these values. So parameters are correct. Perhaps he didn't choose the correct parameters. Perhaps he chose the period was not correct, for example, that he chose. So if the parameters are correct, we will continue the execution in the database management system. If not, we will show, the GUI will show an error, and after that the execution will go to the merge diamond. Now, if the parameters are correct, what will happen? The database management system, as I said before, it is not really the database, it is the program that manages the database. It is the database management system will make the necessary actions in order to search the data of the first parameter and the data of the second parameter. Find when the collection of the two groups of parameters finish, we have a join. So we have a fork, then we have a join bar, and we continue the execution. What will happen? The GUI will calculate the means of the two parameters. After that, the GUI will show these means. After that, the two paths of the first condition, of the first decision diamond, will be joined again in the second diamond. It is in the merge diamond. After that, the application will end. It is very simple example, but it is very useful. Officially, it is not necessary to use the swim lanes to separate the responsibility in an activity diagram, but I find it very useful, and it is very common now to use these swim lanes to precise who is responsible for what. We know what each partner in this activity does, and we can say the responsibilities. It is a simple example, and I hope you understand it well. ask any question in the comments of the video.